Hi, and welcome to the 5th and final week of previews for Hyper Juken's second set, Power Surge. Each character in Power Surge is packing 4 cards from the new challenges with new art depicting them. And over this week, we will be looking at 2 of them in addition to 2 new cards per character. Let's get started with Louise. Adaptive Form 1 probably wasn't anyone's first choice of returning card for blue, as Rejuvenation Form 1's Hyper Acceleration is typically seen as the more desirable card of the 2 Carter cards. But as you might be able to deduce, Louise is packing a buff she really wants to get into play as soon as possible due to its synergy with her playstyle. It's the same as before for Adaptive Form 1. As a setup effect, if you have no buffs in play, you can search for a card that can become a buff and place it into play as a buff. Either start with a buff you need for your game plan, recover from buff destruction, or if you're packing a variety of buffs, choose the best one for the situation to start with. Let's just get onto that buff. Louise starts her training to be the best around with Defensive Knowledge. As an act or setup effect, heal all block cards from among the top 4 cards of your exhaust. If you see blocks in your top 4 after taking damage, heal them. Then Defensive Knowledge becomes a buff. As a buff, whenever you block an attack with a block card, if it would be sent to your exhaust when it resolves, it is healed instead. The wording is very specific as not to interact with cards such as Energetic Shooter Uke, where its own effect sends it to your key pool. Defensive Knowledge can be incredibly potent with cards such as Unfazed Catch, resulting in a net +2 to your arsenal, more so in constructed play. But with Louise focusing on blocks, she wants to keep using them, and this is the most direct way to do so. Hyper Louise even counteracts the downsides of this card. Healing can result in the clumping of cards at the bottom of the arsenal. By using Hyper Louise to search for Lightning Blast, you end up shuffling your arsenal, consequently declumping the pile of healed cards at the bottom. Defensive Knowledge is only part of Louise's game plan to keep using Lightning Blast, but it's a very strong one. Delayed Ki Blast is Blue's second delayed card, and this one enforces Blue's affinity for special attacks. A level 0 2-power special attack, when you use Delayed Ki Blast to pay for a special attack, that attack gains +X power and you raise your Hyper X, where X is the level of the attack. With Louise, you'll only get +1 power and 1 hyper, but that's actually fairly useful for Hyper Louise. Her hyper slows down a lot once she reaches hyper form, but she makes the damage from the unstoppable Lightning Blast unpreventable too. Increase its damage output to 5 and gain 3 hyper overall. It's a pretty decent gain. That said, as more level 2 special attacks are released, Delayed Ki Blast starts offering a lot more, and it's not like there isn't one currently in existence. One of the more powerful cards from the new challenges, Forceful Ki Blast, is back, but it's not going to be used the same way. Still, that level 1 special attack with 4 power we all love, attack and hit effects that heal 1, that attack effect is what we're focusing on with Louise. When you use the attack heal 1 of Forceful Ki Blast, unless something unforeseen happens such as Key Disruptor, you're healing the card you use to pay the cost to perform Forceful Ki Blast. Meaning, if you pay for it with Lightning Blast, you heal Lightning Blast, gaining more opportunities to perform Lightning Blast. Combine this with Defensive Knowledge, and you've got both a block and Lightning Blast back to be used again. The fun thing about Forceful Ki Blast is that it remains very relevant in constructed play for Louise as well. With the focus on signature attacks in Power Surge, Ki Flow Form 2 becomes quite pivotal in a lot of strategies due to its ability to target attack cards in the exhaust and shuffle them into the arsenal. For Mark, you will of course be getting back Supreme Chokeslam. It's a component of his game-ending play. But as we will see later, if Delayed Light Jab ends up in the exhaust, it's imperative that it be shuffled back into your arsenal. Beyond that, whatever you deem necessary at the time, be it for utility or power. The namesake of the set, Power Surge, is the first card in Hyper Juken to have a weight class restriction. Only heavy fighters can pack it in their arsenal. This means for now only Mark can pack it, but that will expand over time. By set 5, there will be 4 heavy fighters with at least 1 fighter coming from each of the 3 colours. When you perform an attack, you can increase its power by 4. Then if its power is 10 plus, it gains chip 4. 10 power isn't impossible to reach, but typically will only come from Power Surge being used with a level 2 attack. Usually, you're trading card advantage to force the condition of Supreme Chokeslam to become live, as it will have a total 9 power between Mark and Power Surge, 3 above its condition. If you're in that strategic position of 6 or 7 hyper, going all in Chokeslam to try to end the game can be the right call. Other times, forcing through 4 chip damage on a level 2 can be game ending itself. Power Surge isn't something you'll use flippantly, but can be devastating. Delayed Light Jab is Red's first delayed card, and your other way to get Supreme Chokeslam to full power. Typical delayed condition when used as the payment for an attack, but with Delayed Light Jab, you may remove it to give that attack plus 2 power. Instantly push Supreme Chokeslam to 7 power past the power it needs to get full effects. Saying that, Delayed Light Jab's wording is a little bit more interesting than it looks. You don't always want to use it, but you need that key. The cost and consequently effect is a may. You can choose not to use it, allow it to be sent to your exhaust, then use some type of tool, such as Keyflow Form 2, to shuffle it back into your arsenal for reuse later. Finally, we have the return of Energetic Kick. Serving a slightly lesser role than it did with Lucy, it's the same as before. Level 0 2 power kick with the hit effect to send the top card of your arsenal to your key pool. Key ramp sets off Keyflow Form 2, block bait, always good. However, Mark is packing less level 2 attacks than Lucy. His goal with Energetic Kick isn't to stockpile Key for a big onslaught move. He's looking to get Key he can use instead of Delayed Light Jab and to trigger Keyflow Form 2. Or you can get the +1 to the arsenal consistently by cycling other copies of Energetic Kick with Keyflow Form 2. It's typically better to focus on Supreme Chokeslam, Delayed Light Jab, and whatever else helps forward your game plan. Play more aggressively rather than tempo. Opportunistic Form 1 returns with new D-Stinger artwork. Where last time it allowed Taichi to reuse debuffs he was packing in his arsenal, it might actually be more useful to D-Stinger, all things considered. While D-Stinger is packing a secondary level 1 attack with a hit effect, Skull Crush Stomp, his central strategy revolves around his Stinger Shot, and Opportunistic Form 1 affords him more chances to perform it. All of your tactics become additional copies of Stinger Shot while it's in your exhaust. Or better yet, you can open with Stinger Shot, get it blocked, use it to pay for something else, then finish up by performing it again with Opportunistic Form 1. While many players might prefer utilizing red or blue to manually insert Stinger Shot back into their arsenal, Opportunistic Form 1 is a lot faster than either of those options and provides more rewarding play patterns. Mentioned in the previous season for the new challenges, Salt to the Wound is indeed a real card, and yes, it does make a bad situation for your opponent worse. Should your effect inflict effect damage to your opponent, you can increase that amount by 2 and make that effect damage removed. Also, you can pay 1 key to draw 1, meaning you lose key instead of card advantage. Realistically, the only effect that will trigger Salt to the Wound in D-Stinger's stock configuration is the effect of Key Swipe Guard, but it's still total 4 effect damage that is removed and potential hand filter. Most of the time, Salt to the Wound will be used for opportunistic Form 1, but it's also nice to hold back in the hand instead of setting for the right circumstances to arise. From the hand, it's got 2 great utilities. As you might have expected by now, D-Stinger's only attack without a hit effect is support for hit effects, and Delayed Snap Kick is quite the scary one when paired with Stinger Shot. If you use Delayed Snap Kick as the payment for an attack, you can remove Delayed Snap Kick, and should you use that attack's original hit effect, you can use it a second time. This effect can either be completely useless, such as with attacks that stun or become debuffs, or incredibly powerful, with attacks such as Stinger Shot, 2 Venom tokens at once. Skull Crush Stomp is particularly nasty if you manage to get it to hit early in combat when using Delayed Snap Kick as a payment. It's worth noting that with Opportunistic Form 1, you're paying the cost to perform the attack that you targeted in your exhaust, so that will allow you to use Delayed Snap Kick's effect. While the use of Delayed Snap Kick is entirely telegraphed and requires you to hold onto key until the time is right, it can be a horrid experience for your opponent with the right attack. Dizzying Strike is back, and here it serves both the same purpose as it did with Taichi, but also has additional utility. Dizzying Strike is a level 0 2-power attack that should it hit, your opponent discards a card at random and becomes stunned. Then at the end of your next action, if they discarded a card, they draw a card. Still the same great opener utility, Dizzying Strike forces your opponent to use a block or take a risk with a random discard and draw. Feint to get an idea of their hand, then go in with attacks you really want to hit. But with Hyper D-Stinger, since he is triggered by your opponent becoming stunned, this attack carries far more weight. The risk of a Stinger Shot that is harder to deal with than normal. Thank you for watching today's preview video for Hyper Juken's second set, Power Surge. Remember to like, subscribe and share to keep up to date with Hyper Juken news and content. Hyper Juken Card Game A2 Power Surge will be available on SavageShizuGames.com on the 15th of March. Link is in the description.